Hi, we're Quentin Curious Volumes. My name is James. Today is Thursday, which some call Poetry Thursday, meaning that we come on BookTube and read you a poem. I'm going to read you a poem and also a little bit of Proust's Time Regained, which I just posted my wrap-up video for. In this book, the narrator at the pretty much the final scene, he is invited to an evening of music and recitation at the Palace of the Guermantes, the Duke and Duchess of Guermantes. And the recitation is given by a character named Rachel, who we have seen before. She was the paramour of Robert de Saint Loup back in the second volume, I believe. And she is not a nice person. She is, well, she's very flirtatious. She's also, I think she's a prostitute. She's also an actress and undermines people whenever she gets a chance. At the end of this book, it's several years since those events. The narrator describes Rachel as now a successful stage actress, although he does note that she is ugly and old. But she has been invited to this grand salon to give her reading because she is now famous. She's still kind of a nasty bit of work, as we find out. But she's going to read some poetry, and there is a bit of that. The announcement that she was to recite poems with which nearly everybody was familiar had been well received. But when the actress, before beginning to speak, was seen to shoot searching and bewildered glances in every direction, to lift her hands with an air of supplication, and then to utter each word as though it were a groan, the general reaction was to feel embarrassed, almost shocked by this display of sentiment. Nobody had said to himself that a recital of poetry could be anything like this. Gradually, however, each member of an audience grows accustomed to what is taking place before him. He forgets his first sensation of discomfort. He picks out what is good in a performance. He mentally compares different ways of reciting and passes judgment. This is excellent. This is not so good. But for the first few moments, just as when in a trivial case in a law court, we see a barrister advance, raise a togaed arm in the air, and start to speak in a threatening tone, we hardly dare look at our neighbors, for our immediate reaction is that this is grotesque, but we cannot be sure that it is not, in fact, magnificent. So, for the present, we suspend judgment. So this is the very familiar feeling, probably, of perhaps it's what you would call cringe, right? Feeling sort of embarrassment for someone else. Nevertheless, the audience was amazed to see this woman before she had emitted a single sound, bend her knees, stretch out her arms to cradle an invisible body, and then to recite some very well-known lines of poetry, start to speak in a voice of entreaty. People looked at one another, not knowing what expression to put on their faces. A few bad-mannered young things giggled audibly. Everyone glanced at his neighbor with that stealthy glance which, at a smart dinner party, when you find beside your plate an unfamiliar impediment, a lobster fork or sugar grinder perhaps, of which you know neither what it is for nor how to use it, you cast at some more authoritative guest in the hope that he will pick it up before you and so give you a chance to imitate him. Or with which, when someone quotes a line of poetry which you do not know, but of which you do not wish to appear ignorant, you turn towards a man better read than yourself and relinquish to him, as though it were a favor, as though you were courteously letting him pass through the door before you, the pleasure of naming the author. With just the same glance, as they listened to the actress, each member of the audience waited, his head lowered, but his eyes furtively prying, for others to take the initiative and decide whether to laugh or to criticize, to weep or to applaud. It goes on like that, but later we learned that this poetry that she's been reading is described as something based on Jean de La Fontaine's Les Deux Pigeons, the Two Pigeons, which is a fable rendered in free verse, written by in the 17th century by Jean de La Fontaine, who was apparently a very popular and famous French poet. So apparently everyone present would have been familiar with this poem. And it is based, Wikipedia tells me, on some earlier Persian antecedents, and also on some pieces of some epistles of Horace. You might find it familiar to the Country Mouse and the City Mouse, if you are familiar. Anyway, I have found a 19th century translation of the Two Pigeons into English verse, so I'm going to read that for you. I'm not going to attempt to be as histrionic as Rachel is, but I will do my best to read this poem. The Two Pigeons. Two pigeons once, as brother, with true affection loved each other. But one of them, foolishly tired of home, resolved to distant lands to roam. Then the other one said, with piteous tear, "What, brother, and would you then leave me here? Of all the ills that on earth we share, absence from loved ones is bitterest woe. And if to your heart this feeling strange, let the dangers of travel your purpose change. And, oh, at least for the springtide wait, I heard a crow on a neighboring tree, just now predicting an awful fate for some wretched bird, and I foresee falcons and snares awaiting thee. What more can you want than what you've got? A friend, a good dwelling, and a wholesome cot." The other, by these pleadings shaken, almost had his whim forsaken. But still by restless ardor swayed, soon in soothing tones he said, "Weep not, brother, I'll not stay, but for these short days away. And then, quite satisfied, returning, impart to you my travelled learning. Who stays at home has naught to say, but I will have such things to tell. 'Twas there I went, it thus befell, that you will think that you have been in every action, every scene." Thus having said, he bade adieu, and forth on eager pinion flew. But ere a dozen miles were past, the skies with clouds grew overcast. All drenched with rain, the pigeon sought a tree whose shelter was but naught. And when at length the rain was o'er, he dragged his draggled wings could scarcely soar. Soon after this, a field espying, whereon some grains of corn were lying, he saw another pigeon there, and straight resolved to have his share. So down he flies, and finds too late the treacherous corn is only there to tempt poor birds to hapless fate. As the net was torn and old, however, with beak and claw and fluttering wing, and by despair's supreme endeavor he quickly broke string after string, and with the loss of half his plumes, joyous his flight once more resumes. But cruel fate had yet in store a sadder evil than before. For as our pigeon slowly flew, and bits of net behind him drew, like felon just from prison scaped, a hawk his course toward him shaped. And now the pigeon's life was ended, but that just then with wings extended, an eagle on the hawk descended. Leaving the thieves to fight it out, with beak and talon helter-skelter, the pigeon neath a wall takes shelter, and now believes without a doubt that for the present time released, the series of his woes has ceased. But lo, a cruel boy of 10, that age knows not compassion's name, whirling his sling with deadly aim, half kills the hapless bird, who then, with splintered wing, half dead and lame, his zeal for travel deeply cursing, goes home to seek his brother's nursing. By hook or by crook he hobbled along, and arrived at home without further wrong. Then, united once more, and safe from blows, the brothers forgot their recent woes. O lover, happy lovers, never separate, I say, but by the nearest rivulet your wandering footsteps stay. Let each unto the others be a world that's ever fair, ever varied in its aspect, ever young and debonair. Let each be dear to each, and nothing count as rest. I myself have sometimes been by a lover's ardor blessed, and then I'd not have changed for any palace here below, for all that in the heavens in lustrous splendor glow. The woods and lanes and fields which were lightened by the eyes, which were gladdened by the feet of that shepherdess so fair, so sweet and good and young, to whom, bound by Cupid's ties, fast bound, I thought forever, I first breathed my oaths in air. Alas! Shall such sweet moments be never more for me? Shall my restless soul no more on earth such tender objects see? Oh, if I dared to venture on the lover's path again, should I still find sweet contentment in Cupid's broad domain? Or is my heart grown torpid? Are my aspirations vain? So that is The Two Pigeons by Jean de La Fontaine. This translation is by, oh, let's see, Walter Thornbury. Uh, you know, and this is from an edition I found on Project Gutenberg from 1886. So I'll put a link to that in the description for all the new converts to the Fables of La Fontaine that this video is sure to make. I will say over the apropos of corn attracting pigeons over the weekend, my wife and I went to a wild bird store here in town, and I asked the old lady who was working there, what birdhouse should we get? I've never had a birdhouse, but she said, well, come over here. You should get a tray. I think if you asked a bird what kind of birdhouse he wanted, he would say he would pick this one. So that's what I got. It's not even a house. It's just sort of a four-sided uh, container with a mesh on the bottom, and you can. So apparently the birds like it because they don't feel confined. They can see on all sides. And I've hung it up on the front porch, and yes, the birds do seem to be visiting and feasting on my safflower seeds. So that's nice. Anyway, that is a rather rambly Poetry Thursday for you. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.